Politics Done Right comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter. Hey, folks, you know what they say? We are going to get these signals to those magical boxes known as radios, aka the Howard Reynolds machines. We're going to have a great show for you today. Lots to talk about. But before we get started, let's throw it to the studio because these are some great geniuses waiting to highlight what we're going to talk about. Hey, guys. Buenos dias.
I think it's more like Laurel and Hardy. Well, Stanley, this is another fine mess you've gotten me into.
Oh, gee, Ollie. Gee, Ollie.
Oh, boy. It is Tuesday morning at the radio. Giving Tuesday, by the way, as a matter of fact. And that is, we are hoping that somebody out there will give to KPFT, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 for Giving Tuesday, if you are so inclined. And we will be prompting you throughout the day to remind you that it's Giving Tuesday, and KPFT is one of those places that you might want to, shed a little bread on. I think we should have our next, fun drive called Shed the Bread.
Get you a tax deduction right here.
That's right. It's the last part of the year. You can get that tax deduction, 713-526-5738, extension 1. And there is an entire page of wisdom from Jack this morning, and I think we should get to that.
Well, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, my dear Jack. I'm doing fine. Talk to me, my brother.
Okay, I'm gonna do Medicare Advantage again.
Okay.
This one might be a little gruesome.
No.
Oh, no, but it's true. You know what? Before you get
true.
started, Jack, I'm glad that you said that because, believe it or not, that is one of the reasons that a lot of times the good doesn't get done because we are so scared to tell the truth in the gruesome fashion that it is. So, gruesome on, my brother.
All right, I'm gonna gruesome on. It's like you're hiring your own death panel. When your care starts cutting into Medicare Advantage profitability, they give you the axe, literally and figuratively. I mean, if you get a costly cancer treatment prescribed and Medicare Advantage denies your treatment, what are you to do? Egberto's given lots of horror stories about people given death sentences over Medicare Advantage profits. It's up to the citizens. Turn the page.
Page 2.
It's up to the, I was going to write, well, it's up to the citizens to drive those vampires out with a stake through their heart. But it's really,
That's pretty gruesome.
it's really the, it's up to the citizens and government to make sure these corporate abuses of public trust are prosecuted. Oh, darn. The Supreme Court is corrupted too. What's a poor American citizen to do?
Well, we don't want to move to Venezuela.
No, we don't.
That's not a good place for us to go to. So maybe Sweden? With the Swedish...
Actually, believe it or not, good healthcare, a lot of good stuff in Sweden, a lot of good stuff in Norway. In fact, I did a piece on I interviewed this American who emigrated to Norway. He lives there permanently now. He got there when Bush got elected. He decided to just call it quits and leave the country. And while in Norway, his son got in an accident and was temporarily paralyzed. What his son went through would have costed him a fortune, if not his home, everything else. In Norway, it was all covered from the helicopter ride from the mountain where his son went to the rehabilitation, which was a long rehabilitation process. And I can tell you, here in America, you don't get it. My daughter got like 9 weeks of rehab, and everything else had to be done on her lonesome, and she's still doing it on her lonesome. Let me tell you, when we talk about this, the terrible state of our healthcare, for those who don't know, my daughter has had two strokes at under before she the first one before she was 30, the second one I think when she was 30, when she was 30. And brother, thank you for that, because and thanks for saying bringing up Sweden, Howard, because it gives me a chance to not bloviate, because bloviate kind of make it look like it's silly stuff, to talk some real stuff about where healthcare is around the world. Norway, and any of these Scandinavian countries, even France. But when we talk about the Scandinavian countries, they don't pay any more per se in taxes than we do, if you count insurance that we pay, which can cost you a bunch as taxes, because you got to have it. So if it's a single payer system, it costs you a lot less, but it's taxes, right? But you get the service that you need. You never ever have to worry about, I can't afford to go to the doctor ever. And it's, I mean, people, when people hear that your money can go so much further if you have a single payer Medicare for all type system. The only way we don't do it is because we misinform, ill-inform, disinform people. Just before I came onto the show today, I was listening to an writer from the Atlantic, and this writer was talking about the Democratic Party and his concern that the country has made a rightward populist move, and that truth no longer matters, that it's all about lies, and that goes through, etc. And his critique of the Democratic Party is, are they ever going to understand that and stop being sort of an elitist type party? And half of what he said was right. I mean, Democrats tend to be elitist because they don't go where the people are. They don't go to meet the people often times. We tell them what's good for them, and then we call it a day, as opposed to first listening to their needs and then catering what what Democrats are proposing in a form that is for these people who are listening. So let me give a perfect example. Democrats are or progressive Democrats are for Medicare for all, and they are for having healthcare as a human right. Republicans promote that as pie in the sky, overspending, etc. Wow, imagine they are able to tell rural America that Medicare for all is overspending. Think about this, is overspending. And they buy it, right? They buy that I can't have good health care. I can't have my needs taken care of because it's overspending. Now I want you to think about this. All over rural America, everywhere in rural America, people are dying because hospitals are closing. And why are and these are mostly occurring in red states. And why are these hospitals closing? These hospitals are closing because these state governments, many of them, refuse to accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which give poor people, and guess what the rural area is filled with? Poor people. Give poor people access to health care, and that access to health care would be paid for by the federal government, which would keep those hospitals in those rural areas open and ready to take patients on an emergency basis, on a cancer basis, where people don't have to run to the big cities for service. So here we are. Democrats have the policy to keep those hospitals open, But Republicans are preaching that these policies are bad for them. How comes when the next hospital closes in Timbuktu, rural America, you don't see a band of Democrats in a bus that drives the 150 miles into rural America and put up a big stand and say this hospital here is going away because this congressperson, that senator, that state senator, they all said that they rather kill you than keep this hospital open. They could use what's happening in real time if they respected our rural brothers and sisters enough to get to hell out of the cities, go into these areas and earn the damn vote. Earn the vote of our rural brothers and sisters. A lot of them are going to say, well, you know what they say? They call us own the lives and all of that. You know why they do that? That didn't happen overnight. We seeded. When I say we, I have to take my host hat off. So I got to stop talking about we. Democrats seeded the rural areas to the charlatanes of the Republican Party. They seeded it. They said you could have it. We will work with the masses. Look, the honorable folks, the moral folks, the folks who care about humanity can also have a problem in elitism, in how they address others, right? And we all sometimes fail at that. And what I'm saying is the Democratic Party doesn't need to change who they are, because who they are is that moral being that believes in humanity, that doesn't believe. And when I say the Democratic Party, I'm talking about the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because the neoliberal wing of the Democratic is no different than the neoliberal wing of the Republican Party. No difference whatsoever. The only difference that they have is the neoliberal wing of the Republican Party will kowtow to Trump, while the neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party would not do that. But fiscally and character-wise, no difference. But the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is the morality of what America represents. And if you doubt it, I went to a Netroots back in Arizona, in Phoenix. I think it was the one where Elizabeth Warren came and gave the keynote speech. And Elizabeth Warren highlighted all the progressive policies that Democrats support, and then mapped that against what Americans said that they want. And even Republicans wanted the policies that Democrats support. So let's get back to Brother Jack and Medicare Advantage and how it's killing people. It's not hard. It's not hard to put what the neoliberals have allowed, and that's Democratic neoliberals and Republican neoliberals have allowed the private insurance companies to do to Americans, not just seniors. Yes, seniors with Medicare Advantage, but all Americans with insurance proper. They've used us. Our politicians have allowed the private sector to use us as cogs, a profit center, with putting our health at risk for the private insurance companies. And that is something that we should never forgive them for. And that is something that we should have their jobs for. That is something that we should make sure that any one of those politicians who support private health insurance and what they do to us should never see elected office again. But you know what? We have to start treating all Americans as intelligent beings because they are. Ill-informed? Yes. Misinformed? Yes. But we have got to start addressing them, addressing our brothers and sisters as if, not as if, because we really do care whether you're in rural America or whether you're in city America. Anyway, Glenn Ryan says, I don't get why you constantly embrace progressive policies and yet denigrate parties and candidates who actually support those progressive policies. I don't do that at all. Name me, Glenn Ryan says, I don't get why you constantly embrace progressive policies and yet denigrate parties and candidates who actually support those progressive part. Why don't you go ahead and give me a call at 713-526-5738 and name me one time that I've done that? Because even as I speak today, that's not what I'm saying. But I would love for you to explain to me why it is that I come over that way to you so that I can find out how I may need to modify the message so that it doesn't come across that way. Anyway, I've got some more to talk about, but beforehand, Brother John is on the line. And by the way, folks, you can call in at any time, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hey, it's Giving Tuesday. Why not support a program, a station that is here to really not only educate, but bring folks together so that we can support policies that support us all? Think about it. Giving Tuesday, 713-526-5738. Hit extension 1 to give. Hey, and then give us a call back, hit extension 2 to come on air. Anyway, Brother Johnny, how are you doing, my dear brother?
A theoretical good morning to y'all. So I was coming in through the front door when I heard Captain Reynolds rap mention Sweden, and I think I heard Magic Jack or you talking about, as far in terms of healthcare. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, these guys are talking which country, exit country to go to. So here's my suggestion. How about the Netherlands? The Netherlands, that would be my first choice. Mm-hmm. Second choice, probably Spain.
Denmark.
Third choice, Norway. Third choice, Norway. Fourth choice, either England or Italy. Those are my top 4 choices. But I would have to bone up on my Italian, which I'm really horrible at. So.
I mean,
I don't have travel documents, so that's another problem.
It's funny because
I'm not going anywhere. And you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about the Democrats, the Democratic Party leaders. I think that's who you're referring to, because they're the ones who decide the direction, the trajectory of how they treat the voters. And they do a horrible, miserable job of that. Not only are they bad at messaging, but they're bad at the content behind the message, the policies. They need to appeal to people like Johnny here. They don't make him feel welcome. They spit in his face. Kamala did that most recently. She started out good, picking up progressive running mate. Great. But what did she do? She did a 180 on both prime time opportunities, the so-called debate with Trump and then the Democratic National Convention televised. She slapped me in the face. And that's not good when you slap your potential, and I say potential voting base, because I'm not part of her voting base. She failed to earn my vote. So you're right. And they feel too snooty. Where did she go right after the election? She went to Hawaii. What did Hillary do after her election? She went to have wine and her expensive little getaway with her high snooty friends. They didn't hang around with the people they're trying to get the vote from. And Hillary was a dead giveaway in her body language. Remember I told you this? I complained about this to you once before. The way she nods her head and she's vacant. She's not there. When she's sitting down at that table at that restaurant or a delicatessen or whatever it was, and these people, these women were talking, and she was just vacantly nodding her head. She wasn't paying attention. She was somewhere else, thinking maybe, I wonder what the flavor of boxed wine I'm going to have after the election. That is not how you influence and influence people. Anyway, I've said my piece.
Well, Johnny, look, let me tell you something. It matters what people think, right? And whether they care and whether your narrative is coming over the right way. And for that reason, that's why when this young man, Glenn Ryan, came on our chat this morning and he said, I want to repeat it because it hit a nerve for me. He says, I don't get why you constantly embrace progressive policies, which I do, and yet denigrate parties and candidates who actually support those progressive policies. He says parties, but he means policies. And then my thing to him is, please tell me, how could you possibly get that I am denigrating those who actually support the progressive policies? Is a progressive policy not supporting a public option uh, in the Affordable Care Act? No, it isn't. Is a progressive policy bombing the supporting the bombing of Gaza? No, it isn't. Is a progressive policies not really supporting a basic income program for people who are starving? No, it isn't. Those are the things I speak against, and when it comes to what needs to be done, I speak for that. We have to understand. Go ahead.
What's the name of that gentleman who said that to you? I forgot his name. Was it Reed? Mr. Reed?
No, Mr. Glenn Ryan.
Glenn Ryan. Mr. Ryan, I hope you're listening right now. I know why you said what you said, because you're a new listener. If you were a regular listener to this program, to this radio station, you wouldn't have that criticism. I had the same thing. I came across the same criticism of Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian last night on social media, and I corrected that gentleman. I told him basically he doesn't know what he's talking about because he doesn't know Cenk and Anna. If he had been a regular consumer of their content, he wouldn't offer his dumbass criticism. That's what it is. He doesn't know you, Alberto. He's a brand new listener, and I'll chalk it up to that, and I'll be that charitable.
And you know what? I would love for him to remain a listener and also be a part of the PDR posse, man. But I tell you something that you mentioned, Shank. I had to come out to, and I don't agree with Shank on everything, okay? But Shank has the heart the right place. And you know what the biggest thing I agree with Shank with? When Shank left MSNBC, it was like, no, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to tell the people the way things are. Bye bye. And I met him at a Netroots back in, I guess, just before he formed TYT. He was out there at Netroots raising he needed $500,000 to get TYT off the ground, and he got it. He got more than the $500,000 bucks. But I mean, I wish we could get $500,000 to launch a full-fledged politics done right. But Shank got it, and I spoke to him and the guy that he fired. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Cenk with a J sound. He spells it with a C, but it's J.
Yeah, I always go ahead.
That's one of the things I like about Cenk Uygur is that he's humble enough where he doesn't really care about how people mispronounce his name. He's used to that his whole life. He makes jokes about it. But I thought it'd be good for you to get his pronunciation right.
Well, thank you for that, because I've been corrected of that. I am just a slow learner when it comes to names, and I need to fix that deficiency.
No
Hey, but thank you, Johnny. I appreciate you, my brother. Have a good one.
Welcome to the family, and keep your mouth shut and offer your criticisms after you've been around a while. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. All right, folks, telephone number 713-526-5738, extension number 2 to get on air, and extension number 1, remember, it's Giving Tuesday, and we'd love for you to call in and give as well if you can. Remember, we do a lot of work to make sure folks are informed. In fact, the story that I have next is an important story that affects you, and we'll also teach a little bit about regulations. But before that, let's go to Brother Harry. I haven't spoken to Brother Harry in a few days. Brother Harry, talk to me.
Good morning, brother. You haven't spoken to me because I've had a lot going on in my family here the last few weeks. I had been planning to go to the hospital to get checked, and I did. But my brother, Alan, who's also called on this program, has been in and out of the hospital. He's currently back in the hospital for his heart condition, and he's doing better, but we just have a lot going on.
Well, look, let me before you continue, I just wanted to give you a positive affirmation from KPFT and the entire Politics Done Right and PDR posse. Let Alan, if you're listening, you hang in there, my brother. From somebody who over the last few years have dealt with a lot of illness in the family, a few
Exactly.
deaths, etc. I'm going to tell you, you hang in there, my brother. Hang in there. Okay,
Yes,
talk. So
and
Harry, and I know
I'm
you're going through a stressful time. You stay strong,
right.
okay, brother?
I am, and I'm holding up. I just got a lot going on. There's family tension too that I'm having to deal with. I've got to make an important call this morning because before my brother went back to the hospital, I had to call the paramedics because he couldn't get up Saturday
Oh,
morning, and that was very stressful. But I've got to call them, talk with the police about some things. But I'll deal with that. But there's two reasons why I called. I did listen when I was in the hospital last week during Thanksgiving when you guys had a short week. I listened to all those shows in the hospital when I was in there with my brother. But the 2 points I want to make, I mentioned this several weeks ago about the Trump tariffs that are coming, and something I heard on Utah. Caller Jane from Conroe, you've talked with her, but she calls you talk a lot, and it's about the progressive side of things. But before I start with that, with the tariffs that Donald Trump he's threatening to raise, does he have to have I understand that he can do some of that by executive order, but also he has to have Congress to get some of those tariffs put in place that he's wanting to raise up. Correct?
no, he can do it unilaterally.
So he can
That's a
do it all
power.
with executive order.
Yeah,
He
yeah, he
doesn't
can.
need. He doesn't need. He does not need Congress for any of that.
No,
He
he
can do
does
it all
not.
by executive order.
Exactly.
Okay. Now the other point I was going to make. I was listening to Jane from Conroe, who was talking to Mike Wilson on U-Talk yesterday, and as you were just talking here earlier about the progressive side of things, of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Now, Jane said that I was want to get your opinion on this. Jane said she disagrees with that sort of thinking with the progressive wing, because the progressive wing is about progress. She thinks it goes both ways. She thinks there can be progress going backwards, or she thinks there's progress going forward. She doesn't just think that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party means going forward. So
I
I was
completely,
wondering.
I completely disagree with that. Progressive mean exactly what it says, progress, and progress means going
Progress.
forward. Progress does not mean going backwards. And I
That's what
had a,
Jane said to Mike yesterday.
yeah,
Jane
progress
told Mike
on,
that on Utah yesterday.
yeah, and if Jane said
Right.
that, she's right. Progress means going forward. I had a problem with a devoted PDR posse member on our 3 o'clock show from Georgia, and he got upset because I called him out for a very non-progressive way of dealing with trans. And he thought that because he labeled himself a progressive, and he's a very strong supporter, that he shouldn't be called
Right.
out. And that is what happens with a lot of progressives. In fact, the elite progressives, that's what happens. Look, you can call me out any day, Harry. If I'm wrong, I'm damn
Right.
wrong. Okay. and
Yeah,
and and gue-
if I
and guess
disagree,
what?
I'll say I agree with you on that.
Absolutely. But here's what I'm trying to say. This is a message I'm trying to get across. Progressive means if anybody calls anyone out, if we are a progressive and we are called out, and the person who called us out is correct, the progressive reaction is, I have just learned something and I've just added that to my repertoire. I've just learned something and I learn it, I accept it, and I move on. That is what's important.
Right,
Anything
right.
else, Harry?
Well, I trust that you had a good Thanksgiving with your daughter and your wife, and I trust Howard, you Howard, and you Jack Howard. Love the smooth jazz music as usual. Some of those songs that you played last week, I'll have to look up in the archives. But I trust all you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll stay strong. and hopefully one day we'll defeat this Medicare take advantage, as Jack puts it, Medicare Advantage, because it just rips people off. And we just need to have regular Medicare, and we need to keep Medicaid, fight to keep
Thank you,
Medicaid in place for people who can't
Harry.
afford private insurance, and it'll be better
Brother,
for all Americans.
brother, to respond, yeah, I spoke about the Thanksgiving or the Turkey Day that I had yesterday with the audience, and but more important than that, right now, I just want you to remember, stay strong and hang in there with your brother
I will.
and what's
I
happening.
will.
Okay, thank you, brother.
I,
All right. Anyway, Tommy so well on our chat says Joe continues to lie. Why do Dems like being lied to? Joe said only one term. Joe said he wouldn't pardon his son. You know what? You're right about those two. Joe did say that he wouldn't. He likely wouldn't run a second term, and he ran a second term and he prevent what I thought could be. And again, you're right about that. When it comes to pardoning his son, he said he wouldn't pardon his son. I don't think he should have ever agreed to do that because in this era where things are happening with what I would call a distinct evil on the right, you have to. This is where the power of pardoning, I think, is important. I'll put it a bit blunter. I think he should pardon absolutely everybody in the Justice Department. Everybody in the Justice Department should get a preemptive pardon. Because if you have a new president coming in saying they come in to clean house, you can go ahead and say, okay, you come in to do that. Well, I'm going to protect those who are protecting the country. Billy, Allison, Irwin in the chat, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes in the chat, welcome aboard. Tommy Sowell in the chat, welcome aboard. And Glenn Ryan, of course, welcome aboard. Augie is on the line. Come on in, Augie.
Hey, I just want to say that I like Laurel and Hardy. They bring joy and laughter into this dark world.
You heard that, Howard and Jack?
Yeah.
We heard.
All right, Augie, what's up?
So besides healthcare in those Scandinavian countries, they also have free college, and that's even for foreigners, not just their natives there. My son went to free summer school in Norway, and he was taking his MBA at A&M, and for summer school he decided to go to Norway and got educated over there. And in businesses, they also allowed co-ops, not just they let the workers take over the business, and they've been running them well. I remember when I worked for Southwestern Bell, we had a third line manager. He was a modern guy, and he thought we had 3 crews in this garage. And he decided, try it out, have a crew without a supervisor, let the employees run the crew. And when they did, morale went up, productivity went up without having a supervisor over them. So when the workers take over, they know what's going on and they know what needs to be done. But anyway, just keep fighting the fight there, you, Laurel and Hardy, and you bring us light into this darkness we got out here.
Thank you, brother. Let me just say, I want to tag on to something that you said because I think it is so. I'm glad you brought up the thing about cooperative in Norway and it's in other places. And actually, we have cooperatives here in the United States. It just hasn't garnered the kind of throughput that it has in places like Spain. There is a huge. People always say corporations are the only way to go, right? Well, there's a huge, and they do have their problems, but it still works out more equitably than corporations do in America. But in Spain, there's a company called the Madragon Corporation, okay? And that is a huge cooperative. And again, you don't have the managers making hundreds of times more than everybody else. It is something that actually works. So, I mean, what we ought to do in America is take the goods that we've learned from other places with free enterprise that implement free enterprise. I mean, I want to tell folks something. right? Think about this. Right now, the way our economic system is structured is we have capitalism at the top, and everything has to fall under capitalism. Mean we have to capitalize everything. It's capital first, capital before humanity, right? If, however, we change that model and had free enterprise on the top, right? And under free enterprise, you could have capitalism. Under free enterprise, you could have socialism. Under free enterprise, you can have all these different models, right? And the models that fit the part of the economy that is best suited, you put it under there. So, what does that look like? That looks this way: free enterprise at the top, which means we are free to create enterprises that best fit our humanity. When it comes to healthcare, and when it comes to certain facets of our government where we must have welfare, etc., that falls under the socialism mantra of a free enterprise system. When it comes to creating restaurants and stores, almacenes, and vacation strata and all these things, that falls under capitalism. When it comes to creating corporations that you want more people involvement, that falls under cooperatives. I mean, what you have there is a bifurcated economic system that best suits the particular job that needs to be done, right? But what we did is we flipped that. We flipped it to have capitalism on the top. We don't have any real free enterprise, because I tell you something. If you think a small company is a free enterprise company, like let's say your mom and pop shop, all the corporation has to do is raise, if you're a pizza shop, raise the price of cheese, create a competitor, and get you out of business. I'm saying our model is is not only fraudulent, but it is designed to put capital and those with capital on top. And there are other models that we could follow if we so choose. Augie, anything else before I jump to Bard?
No, I think that's what's being taught in college and business colleges about they got algorithms about taking over a business, wiping out their cash reserves, and
Yeah.
taking the workers' pension, and then buying up the assets, and then selling it. And
Oh
going over,
man, I am so glad you said that.
companies that have been around for a long time, all of a sudden they got these new college kids that are being taught about it's all about the money, and that's what they look at: how much money we can make. What about all these companies that have been around for many decades? All of a sudden now they're going under. That's why they had cash reserves. That's because it was crazy to think everything is going to be going up and up every year. You're going to have a profit. Back then, the capitalists, you're going to have a downturn. There'll be years where you won't be making profits. That's why they had cash reserves. It wasn't be taken by the executives, and then they went after the pensions of the workers, like Eastern Airlines. Airlines was started by Rickenbacker.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, there's a series that I think it just started on Netflix, and I was blogging on Saturday morning, and I just happened to click on Netflix. I wanted to have Netflix in the background, and this series, I don't remember the name of the star. He was married to Berger or something like that. But anyway, he's an older guy, and what he did is he went into work into a nursing home where other older people. He was investigating a crime, so they kind of inserted him in there and to find the crime. And it's funny because the head of that particular nursing home got called into the corporate headquarters, and they told her how great they like her job, and they said, but we are restructuring. And we are being taken up by another company. We've taken up other companies, etc. And she just, and this is what hit me. She just said, are we ever in a state of being where they're not just simply trying to buy and sell us? And the guy said, I think he looked at her and he said, like, just no. I mean, when I tell you that that's all that capital, all these nursing homes and hospitals, look in the background and you get all these transactions behind them in stocks and capital to move it from one owner to the next one investment company to the next. It has nothing to do with the service they provide. Hospitals and all these other things, they don't belong. They don't belong. There are certain things don't belong in the private sector. But thank you so kindly for calling in, Augie. We'll talk. We'll talk. All right.
Thanks again to you and Ronald Hardy too. Thanks to you
All
guys.
right. Thank you, brother. All right. Glenn Rand comes back and he says, it was the station that criticized Jill Stein and the Green Party, citing debunked pick her with Putin. Green Party supports universal health care. Correct? Yes, the Green Party supports universal health care. Look, the story about the Green Party is a long story. The story with Jill Stein is another long story. And by the way, I know Jill Stein personally. I've eaten lunch with Jill Stein and discussed quite a bit of these issues, including for every single run that she's had before now. Okay? So I know exactly that issue, my brother. Um, but I'll address that some other time. Let's go to Bard.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Isn't it interesting that President Trump was impeached for wanting to look into the crimes that Joe Biden has just pardoned his son Hunter for?
That's not why he was impeached. I know that's the way they sold it to you, and that's what you believe. He was actually impeached because he tried to bribe the guy, period. That's what actually happened. And we had the telephone call and the words from the telephone call. It raised eyebrows, including that of Mitch McConnell. So again, I understand how you get your news, Bard. It's simply wrong. Anything else?
Yes, for Johnny, if he wants to leave the country, I will buy him the one-way plane ticket.
Bart, can I ask you a question? Bart, I want to ask you a question.
Him to sign a waiver, though.
Bart, a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bart, do you think I mean you harm?
Yes, because you're lying. You're spinning the truth.
Which lie, Bart, which lie that I have given that you claim is a lie, that you think I want to materially hurt you? In other words, hurt you or your family. Specifically, what have I said that is trying to hurt you or your family?
Well, sir, I am a taxpayer, as are you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not believe in frivolously spending my tax dollars overseas.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So first of all, we agree on that. So again, I ask the question: what am I doing? What policies do I support that hurts you?
You've been supporting Biden and all this.
No, that's sir, my brother. This is why I asked this question, right? Because I want to remember what I said in the beginning of this program. I have to go to where the people are, okay? And you call in here all of the times and you hit me on generalities, right? I support specific policies, and I can tell you specific policies I support and how those policies will help you. Now, I want to ask you, what are of those policies that I support that you think would make your life worse than it is now and not better?
Well, the problem is you cover for them. You won't go against the party line. You cover.
Brother. I want us to get away from that. Brother, I want us to get away from that, right? Because all these things don't matter. Let me explain something to you. When Kamala lost, Kamala goes off and she continues being the rich Kamala. When Trump loses or wins, Or when he goes off and he does, these are rich people that are not in the same lane with you and I at all. But what makes the possibility of them winning is to put you and pit you against me, right? And they use all kinds of things to do that. They use racial animosity, gender animosity, all these things they use, and we fall for it. If you notice in this program, even though whenever I see Bart on the screen, I know it's going to be an antagonistic call towards me, but I make sure that you continue to get your voice. And the reason why is I hope that giving you that respect at some time, you're going to return the favor and say, let me not listen to Egberto through the colored glasses of what I think on the right, but for the policies he stands for. I am hoping that at some point, all my MAGA folk that call in here, and some do, because I get emails from some, will realize that we're not actual enemies. Sometime I hope to get there. So Bart, I'm going to let you go because I don't have a lot of time. I have 2 calls and I want to get something in about fertilizers. So let's talk tomorrow. You know you have an open door here. So we'll talk tomorrow. All right?
See,
All right, let's go to Betty. Come on in, Betty.
Good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, sister. Talk to me.
Yeah, on Bark, he needs to seek help now. What I want to talk about the hospitals and doctors closing in the rural area.
Mm-hmm.
No help. They're going to have to rely on old remedies, like Vicks, hot toddies, lemons. Lemons fights infection real good. And we'll have to take care of ourselves eventually, the way things are going.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say this about Trump. I talk about him a lot and other women. Doesn't bother him. All he says is tough titty,
Mm-hmm.
And on Harry, I got to say something to him because he's going through a hard time now. I will be waiting for his brother and him to be looking out the window because they did that a lot. Good luck on the cops. And also, keep y'all socks on. It is cold. Bye-bye.
Thank you, beautiful. You have a wonderful day, Betty. All right, let's go to Brother Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning,
I'm
sir.
I'm going to follow up on something that Bart said.
Okay.
You're a grafted leaf on our republic. You're an immigrant. Now, exactly why won't you call it Thanksgiving? Now, that's not a personal question. That is an answer to what you have done to harm us. You won't call it Thanksgiving. You call it Turkey Day. Now, why is that?
How have I harmed you, sir?
How have I harmed you?
Yes.
That is an American tradition.
Okay.
An American tradition.
Okay.
Nowhere else in the world is there a Thanksgiving Day, and you call it Turkey Day.
Okay.
Now,
First of all, again, my brother Brian, and that's what gets me with some of our callers when they are definitive in the statements that they make. There are a lot of places that have Thanksgiving Day. That's not a true statement at all. Canada has Thanksgiving.
Where?
Panama has Thanksgiving. A lot of countries have
Now, I'm going
Thanksgiving.
to find that out for sure. I'm going to find that out.
Sir, well, sir, before you should have done that before you made the definitive statement. Okay? So you want me to answer a question that you weren't sure about. You came here and now you're telling me, well, I am going to see if what you're saying is right. No, you come here. If you want to ask a question, you can ask it, but you don't make a definitive statement. Notice how I speak. When
Answer
I
the
don't know,
question.
I'll answer your question. Sir, you'll wait for the answer, okay? Now, here's the thing. When I speak and I don't know something for sure, I will confess up front that I don't know it for sure. I don't come with a definitive statement. Now, you came with a definitive statement. Now, when it comes to Thanksgiving, you are not the only American here. You as let me ask the question this way. Are you one of my white brothers, yes or no?
I'm white, but I'm not your brother.
Well, I consider you my brother. Whether you consider me that a brother, that's your choice. I will love you as my brother. But that said, listen to this. You are my white brother. I also have indigenous brothers that are Americans and that were there here longer than your lineage. I also have Spanish.
Did you answer the question?
I am answering the question sensibly because this is not just for you, this is for the audience. Okay, now I have a whole lot of other people that comprise the mosaic that created America. And you are not the sole creator of what America is. And Colin, for me, you can do it whatever you want to do it. That's your choice. It's a free country. I call it Turkey Day in honor of the original Americans here, the original indigenous people here who look at Thanksgiving as something that hurts them every time they have to hear the fallacy that goes with that holiday. So I'm saying, if you want to call it Thanksgiving, be my guest. But I have the right to go ahead and say, for my indigenous brothers and sisters who have schooled me, and like I said, what is a progressive? Somebody who allowed themselves to learn, who have schooled me that there is quite a bit more to Thanksgiving than what you think Thanksgiving is. Anything else, real quick?
Yeah, okay. Another, abortion is illegal in Panama, but you want abortion legal here in the United States.
I live in the United States. I don't live in Panama. I'm an American, okay? And what I'm saying is, if I were in Panama, I would be fighting for the same thing that I'm fighting for here. Now, the Panama has some corollaries, and that is people get abortions in Panama on boats in the bay, okay? They don't get it on Panamanian soil. They get it on boats in the bay. Again, please go ahead and learn these things before you just come out and make blanket statements. I got to go to Bruce for 1 minute because I want to close up. Okay, sir, I gotta go. Bruce, come on in, sir. You only got a minute, sir, because I have something else I gotta say.
Yes. When Republicans talk about they'll forgive Trump all of his sins and crimes because they get what they want, if I owned a restaurant and I knew that someone liked aioli and peppers and garlic, I'm not going to bring them out a manure sandwich and say, "Hey, you got to eat." Well, there's no difference. There's no difference. They're eating Trump's manure sandwich. And the other thing is, when he pardoned his son, I go back to when we were trying to get Supreme Court justice for Obama, and they didn't let it happen. Then they pushed through the Supreme Court justice for Trump. And all I heard from people right and left was, well, the Republicans play hardball. They play the loopholes to get what they want. They're smart. Well, he just gave them a dose of their own medicine.
Thank you. I just saw a TikTok that said that, Bruce. But, Bruce, I have to go to a quick soliloquy because it's important. But I talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Hey, guys, there's an article in the Texas Tribune that I really wanted to cover today, but you take precedence. The title of the article, and it is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, is Texas farmers say sewage-based fertilizer tainted with forever chemicals poison their land and kill their livestock. It was given to me. It was pointed out to me by one of our PDR Posse members, Ira Dember, yesterday. And I think this article is much more important than we actually could possibly believe, because the fruits that we eat, the ganado, the cattle that we eat, and all that sort of stuff, in effect, this gets into our food chain. And it goes this way. I'm going to summarize the article. The sewage that we have in all around the country is collected by private companies, etc., and resold to farmers as cheap fertilizer. Why? Because it has nitrates and phosphorus and all that good stuff that is healthy for the soil. But because we use a lot of chemicals to clean your toilets, and wash your clothes, etc., and these guys have these PFAS chemicals called PFAS, a lot of that is in the water that goes into our sewage. those forever chemicals go into that fertilizer. So what we're doing by giving all the sewage waste, and it's hundreds of thousands of tons of sewage that goes into the streams, goes into the land, and it then becomes a part of the lettuce you eat and all these other things that you eat, and then your body gets filled up with PFAS. All right. And what happens now is these farmers in rural areas have started to find out that their cattle are dying because some of them are getting an excessive amount of these PFAS chemicals. And guess where is that happening a lot? In Texas and other red states where there's no what? Regulation. If you want to know why regulations are important, when these folks do all of this, it affects us all. The food chain is being polluted by the lack of regulations and a capitalist trying to make money by selling your waste. When we talk about the need for regulation, folks, these are the things we're talking about. Please check out the article. I just got my 1 minute notice, so I need to throw it to the studio real quick.
I've always found it fascinating that they regulate things that they shouldn't, and they don't regulate things they should. So regulations are there for a reason, people. Once they regulate something, you better pay attention. This is to avoid problems just like this one. Regulations are there for a reason. Do you like them? No. Does anybody like regulations? No. But they are there for a reason. They may be saving your life. And that's what I got. Jack, anything from you?
Oh, darn. The Supreme Court is corrupt, too. What's a citizen to do?
I already told you.
Yes. Folks, I love you all my listeners, all my callers, all my brothers and sisters, even my brothers that don't want to consider themselves my brothers. Brian, I'm speaking directly to you. Anyway, folks, look, this is the end of the show. Love you all. Thank you so kindly for being here. politicsonright.com/newsletter contains all our links and videos. politicsonright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics on Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
And now a word from one of our listener sponsors.
Hey, everybody.